Ignoring these 6 realities that every senior citizen ought to be aware of will make your old age a miserable experience. Are you aware of the factors that genuinely contribute to the discomfort associated with becoming older? It's not simply the aches and pains in your body or the drugs that are sitting on your bedside. A gradual understanding that some facts, truths that no one ever sat you down to explain, begin to impact your everyday life in ways that you did not anticipate is one of the things that makes growing older a challenging experience. There are a lot of people who think they are ready for retirement, for slower days, and for a calmer home. But very few people are ready for the emotional and psychological upheavals that come with getting older. In order to shine light on those facts that have been disregarded, this video is here. Today, we are going to discuss 6 truths about aging that, if you choose to disregard them, have the potential to transform your latter years into a period of quiet suffering, regret, and bitterness. The following are not only abstract warnings or scare tactics. The lessons that are learned are those that are gained by observing other people go through something that could have been avoided with a little bit of insight. In addition, these are lessons that you can still put into practice. Regardless of where you are in life, you could experience some discomfort at the beginning of each of these realities. Nevertheless, by the time you reach the conclusion, I hope that you will feel a little more rooted, a little more in control, and a whole lot more conscious of the choices that lie ahead. The 6th fact, in particular, is something that the majority of people don't see until it has already taken its toll on them. So stick with me, because for this reason, by gaining an understanding of these concepts, you may be able to safeguard your mental tranquility and even design a future that is more light and liberating than you had previously imagined was conceivable. Let's get started. To begin, the circle of companionship is becoming increasingly smaller. It is one of the first shifts that many individuals go through that takes them by surprise. And later on in life, they realize how narrow their world has become. Suddenly, the calendar that was previously packed with birthdays, meals, and phone calls becomes considerably quieter. Friends will move away, spouses will die away, children will become busy, and the calendar will be noticeably less crowded. What was once a lively network of companionship can become a quiet routine that feels more alienating with each passing season. This can happen when the network starts to narrow down. In addition, although it is simple to place blame on other people for shrinking, the reality is that this shrinking is not always the result of someone else's actions. To put it simply, it is an inevitable aspect of becoming older that very few people are prepared for. Many persons who are in their senior years are perplexed as to why the phone does not ring as frequently or why fewer people come to see them just to say hello. On the other hand, what is frequently overlooked is the fact that relationships, just like physical health, require consistent care and attention. In the absence of any deliberate efforts to reach out, maintain engagement, or even develop new relationships, the stillness transforms into something that is more than just calm. It leads to feelings of isolation. One's heart isn't the only thing that suffers from the weight of loneliness over time. It has an impact on everything. The patterns of sleep are altered. The energy is depleted. Moreover, it affects the way in which we experience pain and illness. One of the most widespread misunderstandings is that loneliness is nothing more than the absence of other people. But in truth, it is the lack of connection that is the problem. Even if you are surrounded by other people, you may still experience a profound sense of isolation if the interactions are lacking in terms of warmth or mutual understanding. Being in close proximity to other individuals is not sufficient for this reason. You must have the experience of being seen and heard. That is something that should be taken into consideration if you used to have a weekly lunch with a group of friends and now the custom has gradually diminished. It is also important to consider the fact that you have not been out in public for several months if you used to participate in community meetings or volunteer activities. Consider the case of George, a widower who has been working in sales for several decades and is now 76 years old. He believed that after he retired, he would finally be able to take pleasure in the tranquility that he had worked so hard to achieve. The stillness, however, began to feel more like absence than relaxation after a few months had passed. When he was no longer able to participate in the everyday interactions of his previous employment or the weekend get-togethers, his wife came to the rescue. He noticed that he went days without having a conversation that was meaningful to him. It wasn't until he started going to a local walking group and starting calling his former coworkers on a regular basis that he started to feel like himself again. In all honesty, it is not always the case that people will remain in your life by default. It is necessary for you to extend an invitation to them. In spite of the fact that it may be uncomfortable, you are the one who is responsible for sending the message, suggesting the coffee, or showing up. When you wait for other people to come around, you will just end up being disappointed. In addition, as we get older, we need to become more deliberate in our actions. In the event that you do not, the stillness will grow more audible, and the feeling of isolation will become more intense. Because of this, the first truth is of enormous significance. It is all too simple to find yourself alone in ways that deeper and more painful than you anticipated if you are not prepared for the natural shrinkage of your social circle and if you do not have a plan to actively keep your relationships alive. If you are not prepared for this, it is also easy to find yourself alone. Second, the burden of suffering that is not properly controlled. The rate of occurrence of physical pain increases with age. That much should not come as a surprise. But what is it that attracts a lot of people? How suffering and pain are not the same thing is something that caught me off guard. There is a sensation of pain. Suffering is the fabric that we construct around it. And far too frequently, older folks inadvertently contribute to that suffering by attempting to turn a blind eye to the pain, conceal it, or fight against the changes that it makes. There is no question regarding whether or not you will feel suffering because of this fact. It is almost certain that this component will be present. It is about how your frame of mind and how you react to pain that determines whether or not it takes your life or whether it simply becomes a part of it. Some symptoms come on gradually, such as a stiff shoulder in the morning, knees that protest as you walk upstairs, or hips that don't move as much as they used to. Chronic ailments, such as arthritis, neuropathy, and back problems, are examples of the other types of conditions that require ongoing medical attention. But here's the thing. When we pretend that those changes aren't happening, when we cling to the version of our bodies that existed 10, 20, or 30 years ago, we end up suffering a great deal more than we need to. We are putting improper pressure on ourselves. We postpone the treatment. Tools that could make life simpler are not something we use. And gradually, the sensation of suffering began to spread beyond the confines of the body. It becomes ingrained in our disposition, our relationships, and even our sense of ourselves. In addition to it, there is a subdued sadness. When it comes to the decrease of their physical health, many elderly people carry. Some people are embarrassed to ask for assistance, as if they were walking with a cane or experiencing discomfort. Medication is a symptom of weakness that is admitted. The fact that their body is no longer able to move in the same manner as it once did causes some people to feel dissatisfied, and they allow that irritation to develop into resentment. However, here is the reality. Adapting does not mean giving up. Indeed, one of the most courageous actions of aging successfully is the ability to adjust to new circumstances. Try to picture someone like Linda, who is 82 years old and has spent a significant portion of her life gardening. It was a few years back when she first started experiencing acute wrist discomfort due to arthritis. By refusing to wear braces or make any adjustments to her tools, she initially attempted to push through the discomfort. As time went on, she eventually stopped gardening entirely since it was too painful for her. On the other hand, Linda discovered a new rhythm after a neighbor advised that she experiment with higher beds, ergonomic equipment, shorter periods, and more rest before continuing. The discomfort did not go away, but she experienced a restoration of delight. She ceased acting as if she was required to complete things in the same manner as she had in the past. We frequently fail to recognize that the way in which we cope with pain has an impact on how we feel about our days. You will start to reclaim energy that you would have otherwise spent on resistance when you make peace with your body in its current state, rather than in its previous state. Stretching routines, modest strength exercises, warm baths, or even just more attentive movement throughout the day can help manage discomfort in ways that medication alone cannot. These are all examples of things that can help manage discomfort. The first step, however, is to acknowledge the suffering without allowing it to become your own identity. It's not true that those who age gracefully are the ones who completely escape experiencing pain. Rather of reacting with terror, they are the ones who respond to fear with wisdom. They pay attention to their bodies. They seek assistance, and they discover new ways to live their lives to the fullest despite the constraints they face. A person's reaction is the single most important factor in determining the emotional burden that pain brings into their day-to-day life. I would appreciate it if you could use the second comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. The third fallacy is the idea that family support is an unqualified blessing. It is a common belief among many of us that when we get older, our children, grandchildren, or other close family will naturally be there for us emotionally, physically, and even financially. This is a subtle expectation that we carry with us. To put it simply, we have devoted decades of our lives to providing support, affection, and prioritizing them. In light of this, it is acceptable, and even fair, to hope that support will be returned to you. This belief, albeit being sensible, is one of the most excruciating illusions that comes with getting older. We are setting ourselves up for a profound sense of dissatisfaction if we do not tackle it at an early stage. The truth is that no one, not even your own children, owes you their time. This is something that very few people are willing to admit out loud. Love has the potential to be profound. Families can be quite close. On the other hand, every single individual, including your son, your daughter, and even your grandkids, is living a life that is full of their own obligations, difficulties, and choices. Furthermore, if we construct our emotional foundation on the presumption that they will always show up, simply due to the fact that they are members of our family, we are putting our tranquility in the hands of another family member. This does not imply that your family does not love you in and of itself. Quite maybe, they do. Love, on the other hand, does not necessarily imply availability, and it certainly does not guarantee presence whenever it is there. In situations where an adult kid fails to phone or fails to show up for a holiday visit, it is simple to fall into a downward spiral of thoughts such as, "They don't care," or, "After all I've done, even a single day is beyond their means." As a result of these ideas, bitterness develops, and this bitterness becomes a filter through which we see every connection, or lack thereof. The distinction between emotional dependency and emotional attachment is of the utmost importance. It is dangerous to put your happiness, your plans, or your sense of purpose in the hands of other people at any age. But it is extremely dangerous to do so in your later years. There will be shifts in the individuals around you. They will become busy, and there will be times when they will let you down. This is not because they are particularly horrible people, rather, it is because they are human. Take for example Helen, a woman who is 79 years old who has spent her entire adult life teaching and caring for her 3 children. When she thought of retirement, she envisioned herself spending time with her grandchildren, going on visits, and having weekly dinners with them. However, once her children relocated to distant locations and their own lives became more hectic, Helen found that she was waiting by the phone more than she was chatting on it. At first, she had the impression that she had been forgotten. However, rather than wallow in that sensation, she changed her attention to things that she could control. She became a member of a community center in her neighborhood. organized game nights with her neighbors, and even mentored young mothers in her region. They continued to hold a significant place in her heart, but they were no longer the only thing that gave her significance. Accepting reality with an open mind and heart is a necessary component of healthy aging. It implies letting go of expectations that are not explicitly stated and instead making the decision to construct a life that is independent of the presence or absence of another individual. It would be a blessing if they did not. In the event that they do not, you will still be complete. It may be difficult to accept this reality, but making peace with it is the path to liberation. By letting go of the expectation that other people will fill your days or validate your worth, you make room for yourself to pursue your own passions, strengthen your relationships with others, and develop in ways that you never thought were possible. The most resilient older folks are those who are able to learn to enjoy what comes their way without the need for it to look a certain way specifically. Delight in your family. Despite the fact that you should be thankful for their existence, you should not base your happiness on it. This is because the moment you free yourself from the strain of carrying that burden, you will begin to recover a kind of calm that no one can displace. A lack of a morning motive is the fourth problem, which is the loss of purpose. When you no longer have a cause to get out of bed in the morning, it becomes more difficult to do so. Although it may come out as abrupt, this is one of the most frequently ignored realities about becoming older. There are a lot of older folks who find themselves wondering what they are expected to do with all of this time. This is especially true when the children have grown up. The job is finished, and the house is silent. Others rapidly come to the realization that an excessive amount of unstructured time might begin to seem more like emptiness than freedom. Despite the fact that some people are looking forward to the calm. Purpose is not simply something large or dramatic, which is something that the majority of people don't realize until they themselves have lived it. In many cases, it is minor and intimate. It is the reason that you get out of bed and get dressed rather than staying in bed. This is the activity that determines the course of your day. If you do not have it, the hours disappear into one another, and the days lose their significance. As time passes, this lack of direction can gradually corrode your sense of who you are as an individual. There is no longer a need for you to fulfill the roles of manager, parent, educator, or caregiver. Here you are, just now, and when you are unsure of the reason for it, that is when the weight begins to settle in. Distractions are something that a lot of elderly people strive to avoid doing. To kill time, they indulge in activities such as watching television for hours, scrolling through social media, or napping. On the other hand, these goods do not fulfill the more fundamental demand for participation or contribution. They are merely a space occupying. Also, after a certain amount of time, even the distractions begin to feel monotonous. It's not that you're a slacker. Your spirit is starving for a purpose. And this is the reason. Let's take Bill, for instance, who worked as a city bus driver for 40 years before retiring at the age of 74. In the beginning, he was excited about the slower mornings and the complete absence of alarm clocks. However, by the third month, he started waking up later and later, and he was in a state of confusion about the purpose of the day. Something changed when his daughter asked him to assist at her local school as a part-time crossing guard. This was the moment when he realized that something was wrong. It was as if he had suddenly been given a purpose to stand up, people to meet, and stories to recount once more. There was once again a smile on his face. He was required to be there, not because he was occupied with other things. There is no requirement that production be connected to purpose. Taking care of a pet, cultivating tomatoes on the back porch, writing letters to pals, or simply being someone who others can count on for kindness are all examples of ways that one might demonstrate kindness. The most important thing is that it provides your life with structure and direction. That you finish the day with the feeling that you have made progress, even if it's simply for your own mental well-being, is a pleasant experience. Depression seems to closely follows feelings of aimlessness in older persons. Also, it is not because life has come to an end. The reason for this is that the script has been altered, and they have not been instructed on how to compose a new one. Having a purpose in life is not something that is bestowed upon you while you are retired. Creating it is something that is required of you. The good news is that it is never too late to do something. In the event that you awaken with a sense of fear rather than joy, it is essential to inquire about what you are lacking, rather than in your agenda. It should be in your heart. In what ways could you revive your sense of usefulness? How would you give your day a sense of purpose? Take baby steps. One does not need to impress someone with their purpose. All it needs to do is strike a chord with you. I would appreciate it if you could use the 4th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. The 5th issue is the weight of pride that comes with asking for assistance. When you reach a certain point in your life, the independence that you once considered to be a badge of honor starts to work against you. A little bit more time is required for you to stand up. A little bit more assistance is required to carry the groceries. Or perhaps you just need a hand navigating technology or scheduling appointments. However, for many people who are in their later years, the request itself is the most challenging aspect of the work. Pride has a way of persuading us that requiring assistance is a sign of weakness, while in reality, it is one of the most natural aspects of being human. There is a profound anxiety of becoming a burden to others. We don't want to cause our children any inconvenience or accept that we are unable to perform acts that we were once capable of. However, that subtle resistance frequently results in more significant struggles. Experiences are lost to us as a result. We put off receiving medical care. Unattended items in the house were left unattended by us. Instead of putting ourselves in harm's way, we choose to isolate ourselves. Over the course of time, the cost of remaining silent turns out to be significantly higher than the momentary discomfort of seeking assistance. It's interesting to note that the majority of the people around us are willing to lend a hand. They frequently have the desire to. What causes them to be hesitant is the manner in which we refuse. We are teaching other people to believe that we do not require their assistance when we dismiss offers with a fake smile or insist that we are doing fine. Then we begin to wonder why they have stopped turning up. Vulnerability, on the other hand, does not cause people to withdraw from you. It brings them closer together. Imagine a person like Raymond, who was 80 years old and had a hard time keeping up with the yard labor. But he refused to speak out about it whatsoever. Every time his neighbors saw the overgrown grass and offered to help, he politely denied their offer. His neighbors saw the overgrown yard. They eventually stopped asking after a while. Not until he was taken to the hospital for treatment of a minor fall did he come to the realization that pride had not only caused him to experience physical strain but also emotional isolation. In response to his decision to finally let others in and open up, he received an outpouring of support, which was not out of pity but rather out of respect. Asking for help doesn't mean surrendering your dignity. In reality, it often reveals wisdom and courage. It indicates, I know my boundaries and I care enough about my well-being to act on them. And when you enable someone else to help, you're giving them a gift too. The chance to feel helpful, to connect, and to contribute in a meaningful way. There's also a distinction between help and reliance. You can still remain autonomous while receiving support. Using a walker doesn't make you less of a person. Accepting a ride doesn't mean you've lost control. These are tools, not defeats. They're part of living smart, not giving up. Let go of pride to open up new opportunities, deeper relationships, safer surroundings, and an overall improvement in quality of life are all made possible as a result. The issue is not about giving in. It's about allowing people to come in. It is important to let in care. In the community, letting in, acknowledging the fact that none of us were ever intended to go through this endeavor by ourselves. It is when you begin to accept support, not as a last resort, but as a natural part of life, that you will discover that aging becomes less about loss and more about making sensible choices. And the decisions you make are what determine the kind of old age you will have to endure. Sixth, the damage that is caused by even the smallest of daily neglects. The majority of people believe that deterioration occurs all at once. A significant life event, such as a diagnosis or a fall, serves as a marker for the before and after. However, the reality is that the things that make old age challenging are not always a single moment. Every day, we make a series of seemingly insignificant decisions that progressively erode our well-being until we hardly even notice how much we've changed. This is the slow drip of minor choices that we make, ignoring those seemingly insignificant routines. The ones that appear to be as insignificant as they are, can gradually develop into a way of life that has the potential to accelerate decline more than aging itself ever could. Adaptability is a remarkable trait of the human body. In each and every moment, it reacts to the way in which we handle it. The more we take care of it, the more it will reward us with vitality and resiliency. Even if we only disregard it in a minor way, it will eventually start to go. For example, missing breakfast too frequently, sitting for hours without moving, going days without going outside, and allowing your thoughts to spiral into concern without ever taking a step back are all examples of behaviors that fall into this category. Although these choices may not necessarily have a catastrophic impact on their own, they have a cumulative effect that, over time, molds not only how we feel and think, but also how we react to the people in our immediate environment. There is a certain level of comfort that comes with routine, but routines can be risky if they are constructed on the basis of inattention. For example, hydration is a straightforward approach. Many elderly people drink significantly less water than they require, and they frequently are unaware of this fact. What is the end result? Additional signs of exhaustion, perplexity, and joint pain, as well as a decrease in enthusiasm. The reason for this is not because there is a problem with their body, but rather because the body is not supporting itself. Or you could consider going to sleep, watching television late at night, having an inconsistent schedule, or having sleep apnea that is not treated can steal slumber so gradually that we blame age when, in reality, the foundation of the problem is habit. Aside from that, it's not just the physical routines. The neglect of one's mental health is also a significant factor. A person's ideas may feel sluggish and their moods may be unpredictable if they let their mind to proceed without being challenged. If they never read, learn, or engage in genuine conversations, the failure to provide yourself with outlets to process feelings or to interact with other people can also have a negative impact on your emotional health. The absence of even seemingly insignificant things, such as gratitude or laughter, can leave a void that gradually becomes burdensome. Take for example Walter, who was 81 years old and always took great pride in his intelligence and ability. The loss of his wife, however, caused him to fall into calm routines, such as drinking coffee before each meal, sitting in the same chair in the same room every day, and watching television to fill the void left by the absence of his wife. For a while, it was like being at rest. However, within a year, he became aware of his memory deteriorating, his balance faltering, and his motivation dwindling. His doctor did not discover any severe problems. However, Walter's strength started to return when he started to change up his meals, go for daily walks, get in touch with old acquaintances, and eventually join a book club in his community. Not because time spun around, but rather because the routines of daily existence change. Smaller efforts are more important than making significant changes. One nutritious meal, 5 minutes of movement, one phone call, and a moment of thought first thing in the morning are all good things to do. These items might not seem like much, yet they add up to a big amount. They send a message to both your body and your mind that you are still actively participating, that you are still moving, and that you are still making choices in life with intention. However, This is the true risk that comes with neglect. What is at issue here is not a loss of capability but rather a loss of agency. It is the sensation that things are happening to you without you having any control over them. But you are in control of them. All the time. You have. To add insult to injury. Even the simplest choice you make right now can have repercussions that will affect how you feel tomorrow, the following week, and for the rest of your life. Therefore, it is important to pay attention to the smaller things since they are the largest things. I would appreciate it if you could use the 6th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Lastly, some thoughts. While we are coming to the end of this discussion, I would want to gently remind you that the process of aging itself is not the issue. How we deal with it, how we get ready for it, how we react to it, and how we take care of ourselves along the way are all important factors. The way you feel about these years will determine whether they feel like a gift or a burden. The 6 realities that we have discussed today are not intended to frighten you. Your freedom is the purpose of them, because you will no longer have to live in a state of bewilderment or irritation over the events that are taking place in your life once you have a clear understanding of them. You start to get a better grasp on it. It's possible that one of these realities shined through more than the others. Perhaps it was the bit about the smaller social circles or the damage that is caused by neglecting something on a regular basis. It's possible that it was about the expectations that we carry that no one ever acknowledges out loud. And it was about family. Whatever it was, I hope it caused you to pause. Not in a manner that makes you feel heavy, but in a way that makes you feel like a small fire is being lit inside of you. A fire to contemplate, to go through a process of transformation, and to take care of oneself with more kindness and more intention than you ever have before. There is the potential for these later years to be filled with profound purpose, new growth, and unexpected joy. The only way to achieve this, however, is to confront the truth with both your eyes and your heart wide open. No more are you pretending. Now there is no longer any need to wait for someone else to improve it. The fact of the matter is that your life is still yours, and it has the potential to bring you joy. We appreciate you being here with us today. It would be wonderful if you could get in touch with us. Please leave a comment below and tell us about one item you discovered today and how you intend to put it to use in your life right now. We place a high value on your opinions, so please do not be reluctant to share them with us. Our inspiration and encouragement are greatly increased as a result of reading your remarks. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it to be informative and enjoyable. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you in the future video.